We knew it was going to be tough, but I guess we didn't quite know how tough it was going to be. The weather for the first couple of days, to give a bit of background, before the race organisers called all the teams in and said, look, it's going to be touch and go whether the race can start on time, because the weather was really bad. There was kind of 3-4 metre swell, probably 30-40 mile an hour winds. And eventually they deemed, it's just about safe enough to get going. So we got going on the start date, and the first 3 or 4 days was a complete baptism of fire. None of us really slept. We were all pretty horribly seasick for a good couple of days. You're pretty much constantly wet, because when you're out there rowing, waves are crashing over the boat. For 12 hours of the day, you're rowing in pitch darkness, so you can't see your hand in front of your face. You can't see your teammate moving around the boat. You can't see the waves crashing over the side of the boat.
The physical side of this challenge is something you could visibly see. And I think literally from day one, your body is deteriorating, because the sea is a really tough environment to survive in for a few reasons. Obviously, you're wet all the time. It's quite corrosive, the salt, and obviously you're rubbing. And the fact that you're just sat down on the same rowing position, again, is kind of quite degrading on your body. So the time off, as Tom said, the normal routine was 2 hours on, 2 hours off. The 2 hours you had off, we viewed as important as the 2 hours were rowing. So getting in your nutrition, making sure you're taking on enough calories, because the reality is you're in a calorie deficit for over a month. To put that in context, I went on the boat at 98 kilos, 97, and I came off at about 77. So in 30 days, I lost 20 kilos, and that was the same for kind of the others as well, because you physically can't take in enough food. Combine that or compound that with the fact that you're seasick, it's just tough. So in that 2 hours off, you're trying to get as much food as you can in, and bear in mind you've got to be up 15 minutes before your shift as well to avoid being late and get your clothes back on, etc. So it doesn't leave a long window for sleep. I think the most we would ever have slept at any given time would have been 45-50 minutes. But it's really deep sleep. You lie down, straight away you're out.
It took us 2 years to get from deciding we wanted to do the race to the start line. I think if we'd immediately kind of focused on being at the start line, being ready, rowing the Atlantic, it would have been too much. So we tried to break it down into small steps during the training process. And that was the same during the race itself. The race is about 3,000 miles, and we kind of broke it down into 500-mile chunks. And each 500 miles we try and tick off. We'd work hard, get to the next 500 miles. I mean, we rode through Christmas, through New Year. We had 2 birthdays on board, so they were good little milestones as well. And I think mentally that probably helped us, just having a focus a couple of days away rather than a couple of months away. So there's the overall race, and whoever gets from A to B quickest is the winner, which was us in 32 days during our race, which was great. And then within the race, there's kind of world records to be broken. We missed out on the world record for the fastest crossing ever by a couple of days, because we had some strong headwinds during the middle of the race where we were getting blown backwards, basically. But we managed to get the world record for the furthest distance travelled in an ocean rowing boat in 24 hours, which is 107.35 nautical miles, I think. So that was quite a fun 24 hours. We had some really big waves behind us. We were kind of surfing 4 or 5 metre waves, lots of wind pushing us along. We knew that capsizing could happen if the weather got bad enough. And we knew we were going into a tropical storm the last 3 or 4 days of the race. And we had kind of 10, 12 metre waves as high as a 3-storey house, 50, 60 mile an hour winds, deafening wind. You couldn't really hear anything on the boat apart from this wind whipping through. And when we kind of hit those conditions, we knew, right, this is serious now. We need to kind of batten down the hatches and try and get through this. But the first time we did capsize, it was pretty terrifying. The boat was kind of at the top of a wave. The wave broke. The boat was pretty much vertical and shot down the wave. The nose of the boat dug into the ocean below us, and the boat completely flipped over on itself. So it's called a pitch pole, when the boat kind of goes over on its end. And it was pretty terrifying. And within a split second, the boat was upside down. I'd been thrown out into the middle of the ocean. Ollie and Hugh were trapped under the boat, couldn't get out. And for the next kind of half an hour, we were just desperately trying to get the boat upright, trying to assess what kit we had, what was damaged, what kit had been lost. And then for the next couple of days, no one really slept. We were all up throughout the night. We capsized a few more times throughout the middle of the night. And it was kind of all hands to the pump to get through. But, the question of how did we get through it? I think firstly, we didn't have a choice. We didn't have an option. We just had to get through it because there was no help. There was no one there to rescue us. We were pretty much on our own in the middle of this tropical storm. And just having the mindset, I think, that firstly, we can't do anything about it. But secondly, the storm will pass. If we can get through this, we know in a couple of days the weather's going to subside. We know we're going to push through the other side of this storm. And we know if we do that, we're nearly at the finish line. So having that mentality that, look, all hands to the pump, let's get through this together, because it's not going to last forever. We just need to get through it.
We knew we'd land just coming into dusk, so about 7 o'clock, and we could see land from about 12 o'clock, so we could see Antigua. So those final 6 hours were really special. You know you're going to win. You know all your family and loved ones, etc. at the end. And you know that, like, after 2 years of everything, it may be a little bit more, has just boiled down to this one moment. And it was such a special time because you've gone over a month at sea with these people. We actually ended up, I wrote a few words and we kind of shared stories, and we just kind of had this kind of really intimate time together, just reflecting on what we've just achieved as a team. And that's probably my favourite bit, that kind of almost calm before the storm. But then when the storm does, the metaphorical storm by the way, but when we do actually cross that finish line, it is, it was amazing. Just that feeling, knowing that what you had achieved to set out and do, and like the plan you had in place, and to execute it how we did, way beyond our wildest imaginations, and then to have all your family and friends there is, it was honestly, it was amazing. But I do reflect back. People often think about crossing the finish line, but that little bit before was probably as special, definitely.
The feeling of crossing that finish line, 2.5 years of hard work, dedication, sacrifice. The 32 days at sea, capsizing a couple of times towards the end of the race, losing all our kit, thinking we were going to have to get rescued, which was pretty terrifying, to then getting through that and rowing into Antigua. Family and friends all standing there cheering you in, the super yachts there, hundreds of people welcoming you in was overwhelming. And I think it's one of the few moments that will certainly stick with me for the rest of my life. Look, if you told us 3 years ago you're going to be part of a team of 4 that goes on to train for, to compete in, and then to win the world's toughest rowing race, I don't think any of us would have believed you. None of us had ever rowed before. But then fast forward the clock 3 years later, and we sit here having won the world's toughest rowing race, and we set a Guinness World Record in the process. So, I think the reason we've kind of been successful and we've managed to do that is because we had the mindset that actually, if we really put our minds to this, if we dedicate ourselves to it, if we sacrifice things to achieve this, if we build a strong team of people around us to help us, we can actually go on and learn and achieve a lot more than we've ever thought is possible. A lot of people won't think of anything worse than rowing an ocean, and I don't blame you. A lot of people have their own Atlantic Ocean, whether that's writing a book, starting a business, running a marathon, doing an Ironman, whatever it might be, and everyone has a very different idea of what is their Atlantic Ocean. But whatever it is, I'd say the main thing that's holding you back from achieving that is your own self-belief and your own attitude. If you believe in something, if you really want it, if you're willing to work hard and sacrifice to achieve it, you can achieve often a lot more than you've ever thought is possible. So the main thing that's holding you back is probably yourself.